Hey everyone. How's it going? Welcome to the stream. All of you are early right now. We'll get started right at the top of the hour. We have a really cool lesson for everyone. I'm very proud of this lesson today. I think sometimes I get a topic where I get the opportunity to look at it again in detail by making this lesson, and what I've come up with, I believe, is the best lesson about Kaju on the entire internet. I don't know what this is. This is what I meant to do. Like, I think so. Knock on wood, sort of thing. Yeah, it's gonna be a great lesson, intermediate level, but frankly, this form is something that no matter what your Korean level is, you're gonna hear it. In fact, it's one of the most common Korean grammar forms in the entire Korean world, that you're going to hear it every single day. Despite that, there aren't really very many lessons about it, and we'll talk about why you won't find too many lessons about this in the first place, despite it being one of the most common forms. And the lessons you will find about it are going to be extremely brief. So we'll talk about it though in detail today. So we're going to kind of demystify this form that's been going around for a long time. Welcome. I see a few of my members are here. Traga is my first member. Hope Gate, Aniki, welcome to you three. Any other members in here? If you have, let's see. If you are a beginner, but you've heard this grammar form used before, Kaju, it's in the title. I didn't write it up here, but it's in the title. If you've heard that used before, but you're still a beginner, let me know. I would be surprised if anyone has not heard it, actually. If you've never heard this form, I'd be surprised. That's how common it is. Learn with K-pop asks, how do I become a member? There should be a button in YouTube next to the subscribe button that says join. It might be in a different language if you're in another country. I don't know the word for join in any other language than English and Korean. But yeah. Oh, hey, Stars Gem, welcome, our new member. Thank you. Yeah, when you join as a member, you get a lot of benefits, actually. You get to watch the abridged versions of these live streams the same night that they go up. That means after this live stream's over, you've taken your notes, but it's been, an hour-long live stream. You don't want to watch it again, but you get to watch the abridged versions the very same day. Everyone else, you can still watch them. It'll be a few days later, but members get to watch it the very same night. So tonight, probably around 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, it'll be available on my YouTube channel. Members also get to use the special, yes, the KeyCat, the emote. You get a emoji, I don't know what you call it. Those little faces, those icons, you get to use those. You also get a badge next to your name, and your name changes color based on how long you've been a member. So the very first level is the GOAT. That's because all of you, when you start out as a new member, you are Billy Goats. I can't remember where that came from. It's been around since like 2018, since I first started doing these live streams. But yeah, so you get to be a GOAT, and then you can evolve into different levels. Yeah, Adan there says, more common than the original Seoul form. In spoken Korean, yes and no. Yes and no. It is common, but I wouldn't say it's more common. It's common in a different way. And I don't want to spoil the lesson too much. I'll just say that for right now, but it's not the same as the Seoul form. It's not exactly the same, but it's very common. So there are going to be cases where you still do use the Seoul form and you can't use Kaju. So it's not completely interchangeable, even if you're talking about an informal situation, even in casual speech. So maybe that's a little teaser for today's lesson, is that this form is actually, despite being taught in every resource, including one of my books, very briefly as it's the same as this whole form, this form is actually not, if you look into it, it's actually not the same as this whole form. You can't swap it with this whole form. But we'll talk about why that is. Let's see, announcements. Before we get started, you still have about 15 minutes left if you want to go do the prerequisites for the lesson. In order to conjugate Kaju, you need to know how to conjugate verbs normally. So like the yo form. So like 하다, to do, would become 해요, right? 가다, 가요, 먹다, 먹어요. You need to be able to conjugate those because you're going to take off the yo and attach 가지고, So if you can't conjugate it, you'll have trouble making this form. Hey, Trega! Thank you, Trega. 새해 복 많이 받으세요, 선생님. Oh, thank you so much. That donation is a perfect way to start today's live stream. I'm going to give you 12 dabs since Europe is close enough to the United States that I don't need to convert. It's 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, my arms are sore. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think I slept on them or something. What is going on? How do you say poop in Korean? Yeah, dong. Dong is poop. But although there are many words, I did a whole video about that actually. How to talk dirty in Korean, I believe. Kind of like a clickbait title, but it is true. It's how to talk dirty in Korean and words for poop and stuff like that. So check it out if you want. It's in my Glass with Billy series. It goes over all of those. Star says, you've been doing the dabs for how long now? Since I started these live streams, so since 2018, I think. I certainly don't dab in my spare time. I mean, I'm like 37 years old. You're not going to catch me dabbing. Okay, maybe you might see me dab at my fan meetups, but that's the only exception. So maybe if I do another fan meetup in Korea in the summertime, you can see me dab as well. But I'm not going to be walking around the street like, oh, that's awesome. No cap. Lit fam. That's not going on outside of these streams. Learn Korean with K-pop. Hey, thank you. Seriously appreciate the work you do. You are a real one. No, you are a real one. Learn Korean with K-pop. Learn Korean with K-pop. Try not to write learn Korean with K-poop, since people are talking about poop in the chat. There's your 2 dabs. Thank you. Learn with K-pop said, you should be dabbing in your free time. No, I think my wife would leave me if I'm like dabbing all the time. My kid would change his name. Like, I don't know that guy. He's not my dad. You don't know me. You don't. I can already see it. Okay. Traga says, is it true Koreans don't hear the difference between nun and nun in speech? In the dictionary, it says nun snow with a long vowel. Yeah, I actually made a video about that. If you want more detail, Traga, it's long and short vowels about that exact specific question. It's in my Korean FAQ series, but the summarized version is, Koreans hear the difference. They also make the difference. They do it. But the thing to know about that as a learner is they don't care. They will never misunderstand what you said because you pronounced it as noon versus noon. Never. But it is true they all know the difference. Subconsciously, they all do it when they speak Korean naturally. They say 눈이 와요. They don't say 눈이 와요. 눈이 있다. 눈이 있어. They don't say 눈이 있어. It's just the way that they say it. It's not that they're consciously doing it though. But if you say 눈이 있어요. 눈이 있어요. 눈이 있어요. If you extend it, they're not going to care. They're not going to say it sounds wrong. They're not even going to think it doesn't sound native. They just won't really, excuse me, they just won't really know. So can they tell the difference? A little bit, yeah. But do they make the difference? Yes. So it's one of those things, and it's not just those words. There are so many words that do, there are so many words in Korean that have that, it's indicated by a colon. If you ever see the pronunciation guide for a Korean word and there's a colon in there, it indicates that that's a long syllable. So it's pronounced lengthen. There are so many words in Korean that do this. It's not a handful. It's not like 3. There are like thousands. Like you can say 한국말 and 한국말. And these are 2 different words. Should I get some more? I'm trying to see when did I upload that video? Korean long short vowel. It's okay. It's from September 2018, called Long and Short Vowel Sounds in the Korean FAQ series. Like, for example, if you're gonna pronounce 한국말, like the language, 말 is words, language, 말 is horse. So you could, sometimes I've made this dumb joke. You could say, like, if you point and there's like someone riding a horse, you can say, oh, 한국말 잘 탄다, 잘한다, like 잘해 or something like that. Like they're good at Korean horses. They're riding a horse. Like it's a really stupid dad joke, but you know, I like this kind of thing. So you can do that too. There's a lot of this, but then there are a lot of words where you think it would be different, but it's not. It's the same. And before I say this, I want to double check, but I believe it's for the words for pay. Let me just check. Yeah, the words for pay for like belly, or pay for pair, or pay for boat, those are all the same. They're not long or short. And that's because this is something, let's see, Aniki says this is a remnant of the tones that Korean used to have. Yes, these originally were tones in Korean. So today we get to enjoy Korean without any tones for the most part, unless you're learning one of the specifically like Gyeongsang dialects, then you have tones still. But you don't really have to worry about them that much still, even with that. But Korean used to be a fully tonal language, the same way that Chinese today is tonal. And in the past, Korean was tonal and Chinese wasn't. Yeah, strangely enough, Chinese was not tonal, and it became tonal in a process known as tonogenesis, I believe it's called. Anyway, I made a video about it recently and I forgot what the term is. I think it's tonogenesis, but it's not really important. But the Korean, though, nowadays doesn't have tones, but there are remnants of when it did still left over in Korean. And those are left over in the lengthening of vowels. They're also left over in intonation a little bit, how words are pronounced. And I also made a video about that too. So that one's coming up though. That's not going to be out for a while. I think actually Traga watched that video, but yeah, there are still little remnants of that remaining, and the long and short vowels are one of those. Just kind of a remnant that Korean used to be tonal. Let's see. Next live stream, also just a reminder to check the live stream schedule. If you ever want to know what's the next live stream, just check the Google document. I'll post a link to it here again. There's a Google document that I always keep updated, and that's where you can see all of the past, present, I guess present, yeah, and future live streams. So as you remember, if you've been watching these streams for a while, I always do 2 in a row and then 1 off. So next Sunday, since I did one last Sunday and this Sunday, next Sunday there will not be a live stream, but the next Sunday there will be. So just kind of keep that in mind. Next Sunday, you can make other plans since you won't be busy for this live stream, but then make sure to schedule the next week after that to come back for a live stream. Okay, we have about 8 minutes left. Any other questions before we get started with the lesson? Again, prerequisites are knowing how to conjugate verbs and then knowing how to use the sol form. So this is the basic form you're going to be using most of the time, especially as a beginner, as a Korean learning beginner. This is the one you want to be using most of the time. So this is the one you should be familiar with first. Also, this is standard, and there are many situations where you cannot replace this with what we're going to learn today. So you want to know about this form first. Really quick, just a refresher, you should know this, but this form is used to say because, like something because of something else, when it's a cause and an effect. As in, if you could replace it with something caused something else to happen, or the reason for something is because of something, in that sort of cause and effect sense, then that's the form. Or this can also be used to mean something happens and then something else that's kind of related to that happens. Like I went to the library and then related to that, and then I studied Korean. implying that I went to the library and studied Korean means I studied Korean at the library, not just I went to the library and I studied Korean in a different spot. It's like something that's related to it. So that's the and then meaning. So it can mean those two things. Not begin. Because of and then. Oh, Hope Gate. Thank you for everything you've done to help us on our Korean language journey. Hope Gate. Hope Gate. Moon Himang. That could legitimately be a Korean name. Hope Gate. Moon for gate and Himang for hope. Moon Himang. If your name is Himang. So now your name is Moon Himang. Thank you. Give you 10 dabs. Move my microphone so I don't hit it. Okay. Learn with K-pop says, in my last video, I translated the word 호적되는, and I know 호적 is a verb stem, but what does the end? Okay, so 되다 has the easy way to answer it is it doesn't matter. But there are several verbs that are used to attach onto like sound words or words that are mimicking emotion, like those types of words. And one of the most common ones is 거리다, which you've probably seen. 하다, 이다, 되다. Those are four of the most common ones. I'm trying to think if there are any more that I'm missing. Those are the main ones. I haven't made a separate video about these because it's such an advanced topic to like really care about. But the way that they work is they give different nuance to the verb. So sometimes you'll have multiple verbs that have the same meaning, but the only difference is that ending part, like whether it's like 하다 or 되다 or 거리다 or something like that. And it's just a slightly different nuance to those. If I make a video in the future, I'll let you know, but right now I don't have any plans. So I'll just say it's not that big of a deal. You just learn this verb means this. Oh, this one has 되다. This one has 거리다. Oh, okay, 하다. I get it. But yeah, it's not really something to worry about. It's just part of the verb, how it's used. It just is that way, is what I'll say. But yeah, someday I'll make a video where I explain it, but I need some more verb examples before I can make a video explaining it. Because I can't just make a video and say, oh, here's one verb that does it, and then I need to have at least several. So maybe in the future. Pancake, the Team Fortress Spy, says, is 해가지고 the same as 서? No. We're going to be learning that today. It's not the same. M says Korean actually still does have pitch differences. Not in standard Korean, but there are some cases where they will use slightly higher intonation, so higher pitch, as you can assume. But it's not a requirement. It's just a part of dialects can have it, but standard Korean officially doesn't, which is good. And like I said, I made a video all about that, but it's not going to be uploaded for a while because I have many other videos in the queue to upload first. Let me check actually when I'm uploading that. Some of my videos I actually prepare well in advance. Like the Korean FAQ videos, I usually prepare those at least 6 months or more in advance. It's scheduled for April 1st, but we'll see. We'll see. It might not even be then because of the schedule, how it's going. Yeah, it's going to be a few months. I apologize if you're waiting for that video, but I have lots of other cool videos that will be uploaded in the meantime. Syllable intonation. If you're referring to tenseness, that's not intonation. That's just tense. But unless you're referring to something else, I'm not sure. But yeah, syllables themselves wouldn't have different intonation like that. If you're talking about tense, though, yes, there are aspirated, non-aspirated. They have syllables, like the double consonants. Those ones are considered to be tensed, but that doesn't have to do with their intonation per se. And then let me see if there's anything else before we get started. Okay, 1 more minute, then we'll get started. Aranel says, Czech has short and long vowels too, so I can kind of hear the differences between the pairs. Oh, okay. I can't hear any difference, really. I just know that that it's there, but it's not something really natural for me to listen to that difference. And like I said, in Korean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect your understanding of something. I found out, though, that I actually have been making some of the sounds anyway, long and short, just from listening to people and copying that. And that's how Koreans do it themselves as well, just naturally by learning the language. But again, it's not something you need to worry about. No one's going to do that. You're talking about, okay, yeah, my video will address that. Yes and no. Yes and no. So, but to make it simple, officially, for strong consonants, yes. So I'll talk about that. Again, you'll have to wait for the video, but I go into more detail. But it's not just a simple yes or no answer for this. Okay. Now it is the lesson start time. It's time to start the lesson. Okay, so again, thank you to the 3 people who donated with Traga, Learn Korean with K-pop, and HopeGate. Much appreciated. Your donations go toward this studio equipment. I mean, the transportation fees to come to this beautiful place where I'm at right now. This field and the temple behind me. Or this, I don't even know what that is. This thing right here, it took time and money to take the bus out here, but you know what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for your donations. Okay, so let's get started with the lesson. Here's the way our form works. I'll talk about how it works and then we'll show how it's used. So you take a conjugated verb. So that's any verb you want. Action verb, descriptive verb, but you conjugate it in the regular present tense conjugation. For example, this is a brand new pen. I swear I just took this out of the box 1 minute before I turned on the stream. Expo, what are you doing to me? Dry erase marker. Yeah, dry erase marker. That's right. At least they're honest. Okay, we're going to do the whole lesson in blue today because that's how I'm feeling after trying to open that marker. For example, when you conjugate the yo form, you get heo from hada, right? Well, we don't want this yo. We just want this part. So you conjugate it. And this is present tense. You just conjugate it and you snap off the yo. You cut off the yo at the end. And then you're done. And then you'll attach with a space 가지고. Or alternatively, you can also attach 갖고. And we'll talk about the differences in a second. Seriously, invisible ink. I didn't know I ordered the invisible box. Now it's just lying on my floor, reminding me of my disappointment in Expo markers today. I only have 1 more left. Really, 1 more black marker left. I have to buy a new box. I go through a whole box at least once a year, and every time 2 or 3 of them are dead like that. I'm not joking. It's really frustrating. So, the verb 가지고, I want to use black. Give me a second to get another one. I'm going to get the last one. Okay, this is really the last black marker. I have to keep this box so I can remember to order more. Okay. Yes. This part 가지고 comes from the verb 가지다, which is a regular verb, and it's used to say to have or to hold or to carry something. Okay. I'm going to erase this. So what is this form? Well, this form is used overall in the same way as this form. But it's only used in the same way as this form in 2 of this form's uses. It cannot replace this form in every usage, as I'll show you. It can replace this form whenever you're using it to mean because, as in a cause and effect, like something caused something, therefore it happened because of something that caused it to happen. Or when you're saying and then, when there are things that are related, like I went to the library and then I studied, implying that I studied at the library, not just that I studied in general somewhere else. Or I made dinner and then ate it, as in I ate my dinner. Or maybe I made dinner with my family and ate it, implying that you ate it together as a family, not just I made the dinner with my family and then I went off by myself and ate it. So it's something that implies something happens after something else that's related to it. So in that way, and then. So these are 2 meanings of the whole form that can be replaced with 가지고. Not any of the other meanings. And that is a big difference. So what I can say though is, although you can swap back and forth, 서 and 가지고, whenever it means this, anytime you see 가지고, you can replace it 100% with the whole form to get the meaning. In case you ever see 가지고 and you're not sure what it means, just swap 가지고 with 서. 100% of the time it will be correct, but not the other way around. When you see 서, you cannot necessarily swap it with 가지고 100% of the time. It's going to be wrong sometimes, but going from 가지고 to 서 is okay. Okay. And then if you want a review of how to use this form, 서, I did a live stream January 30th, 2022, which goes into more detail about all of the ways that it can be used. All right. Now, I mentioned that you can say either 가지고 or 갖고. 갖고 is actually the exact same thing originally. 가지, they just removed this and then stuck it at the bottom. So 갖고 is 가지고. It's just a shortened version of it. However, 갖고 is slightly more casual sounding. It's not only for casual speech, but it has less of a polite, less of a formal feel to it. So use 갖고 less. It really does have more of a casual-ish feel to it. Anyway, though, 가지고, regardless of whether you're speaking casually or informally, 가지고 is going to be more commonly used than 갖고. So just know that. Use 가지고 most of the time. This one's better. Okay, am I going too fast? I'm trying to cover all of the ways that it's used and everything before we go into any example sentences. But I'm okay on time. I just want to make sure if everyone's following okay. Let me know if I'm going too fast. David Wee says, can you give an example of a sentence where you replace... Oh, we'll be going over lots of examples of this. Don't worry. But not these whole form. That's a prerequisite for this lesson. Juju as well. For the other meanings of 서, please make sure you learn this whole form first. That can mean because or and then. And there are other meanings. I'll mention some of the other ones though today as well. But you want to be familiar with the other ones. I mean, you want to be familiar at least with because and then before you start this lesson. But yeah, I will be talking a little bit more about exactly what I mean. Okay. So let's go now to the biggest question that you might have. What's the difference between 가지고 and 서? So besides what I said, how the 가지고 can be replaced with 서 in every single situation, and you can replace 서 with 가지고 whenever it means and then or because. But if we assume that a sentence means because or and then, and you could therefore use either, what's the difference? Well, 가지고 is only used in informal situations. What that means is you're going to hear it in conversations, so spoken conversations, or maybe in written conversations, or just in general writing, like you're just talking with someone in chatting or something. You're not going to hear this one used ever in formal situations. You're not going to hear it on the news. A news anchor will never make a sentence using this unless they're quoting someone, in which case it's fine. It's just a quote. You're not going to ever want to use this in your essays. You're not going to use this if you write a book, unless it's, again, someone saying something. It is not a formal or written form. It is a spoken, informal form. In fact, not only is it informal, but at times, it can sound a bit casual. Now, it's not casual, but it kind of has the feeling of like you're speaking casually, but it's not casual speech, if that makes sense. It doesn't sound rude, like using casual speech to someone who you're not close with can sound rude. It doesn't sound like that, but it sounds like you're being a little bit too friendly with someone. It sounds like you're being very friendly with them, which is appropriate in casual situations, not really with when you're trying to impress someone. You're trying to give a speech, you're meeting your new boss or anything like that. You want to be careful about it. It has sort of a friendly, casual feeling to it. Also, and this casual feeling it has comes from the fact that this form overall has a soft feeling to it. Again, it's kind of like when you use this form, it's kind of like you're saying, hey, we're friendly. That's kind of the feeling that you give when you use this form. So some people could take that friendliness as, well, it's a little bit too casual, and other people could take that as, oh, they're being friendly. So be careful. Again, this itself is not casual. It's not going to be rude to use, but it's informal and it has a soft kind of friendly feel to it. So depending on the situation, it could come across as a little too casual. Hey, Paul C. Ha! Billy is the best. You are the best, Paul. And I don't just say that to everyone who donates. I swear, you are the best, Paul. Wonderful person. As I proceed to misspell your name. I've seen a lot of your comments. I definitely know you by name now, Paul. And I had made one of your video requests actually, but I haven't uploaded it yet. You asked like a decade ago, you asked for me to make a video about 무조건. I made it, but it's not going to be uploaded for several months because it's in the upload schedule and it's in the Korean FAQ series, which takes forever to upload because I only upload those when I don't have a regular live stream or something else that week. So it'll be up though eventually. Maybe if you want to see it early, you can send me a message. Maybe I'll send you a link to that. Thank you for your donation. 5 dabs for you. Okay, moving on. Someone asked just right now, is it okay to use it to elders? Again, it has a soft, friendly feeling to it. If you're talking with an elder who you're kind of having a nice, friendly rapport, like it's someone who's trying to sell you something, you're being really extra friendly, or it's someone who you see every day and you want to sound like you're extra friendly, it could be okay. But if it's someone you don't run into very, very often and you're using this to them, it kind of can sound a little bit too casual. So be careful with it. I would recommend though, if you're asking that question, the answer is no, don't use it because it could be easy to misuse. But if you're kind of familiar with politeness levels in general, it's not a dangerous form. It's not casual. Okay. So also, there's another huge difference between 가지고 and 서. In addition to sounding kind of soft and friendly, it also emphasizes whatever comes before it. So how can it be soft and how can it be soft and emphatic? Well, it's soft in the fact that it's like friendly, like ha ha hoo hoo, because and then it has kind of a friendly, like we're friends sort of feeling. But it also has a stronger feeling on what it is that you're saying. So it's because, and then, no, something happens, and then it just puts more emphasis, and this is hard to explain, but it adds more emphasis to whatever comes before it. And we'll see that in the example sentences. But like you can say, so like, I made lunch today, 가지고, and then I eat it. And then I ate it. So it has more emphasis on what you're saying. It just kind of pulls emphasis onto what comes before it. But again, it still has a friendly feeling to it. So that can make a difference in some situations, like if someone's apologizing for something and they want to sound like, hey, I don't want this to sound like a really serious apology because it's nothing big. But, I was just, 그날 좀 바빠가지고, like, I was just kind of busy that day. And they want to say it, not that because I was busy that day, they want to say it more like friendly, right? Like, I was just busy that day. But by doing so, it also adds more emphasis to, because I was busy that day, it just adds more emphasis to what you're saying. As a result, this is not something you're going to find in textbooks, but I found that as a result, you'll often hear sentences that end with 가지고 more often than you're going to hear a sentence that ends with 서, because of that extra emphasis it provides to what comes before it. Makes it so that the listener can assume what you're implying without you having to say it. So it's like, I was just really busy the other day, therefore I couldn't meet you. But we don't have to say that whole sentence because you assume, right when you hear it, that that's going to come next. So it's really common to hear this used at the end of sentences because of that, because it adds a lot of emphasis to what you're saying. And we do this in English sometimes too. Like, hey, why didn't you come to my birthday party? I was just really busy that day. Like you're saying, so I couldn't come. Like, I couldn't come because I was so busy that. You just say, because I was so busy that day. And you don't really need to finish the thought because it's obvious that what you're going to say is, I couldn't come, or that's the reason why. And in Korean, they do that as well. But it's more common to do that with 가지고 than the 서 form. You can say, 그날 좀 바빠서요. It sounds more like you're saying, because I was so busy that day. Like it doesn't really quite end the sentence so much. It kind of sounds like you're going to provide the reason, or you're expecting them to provide the reason. It sounds like you're not quite finished with that thought. And it's more straightforward, because I was busy that day. It's less friendly sounding. So you'll often hear this used in when people are apologizing or when you're explaining something, because you kind of want that extra bit of friendliness to your explanation. Okay, that was a bit vague if you haven't already learned this whole form, but hopefully that gives a little bit of nuance to people who already know it. And then next, the 서 form has several uses in addition to just saying because or and then. One of the other uses that the 서 form has is to show the method or the way that something happens. Can anyone think of an example of what I'm talking about? A method or a way that something happens. Let's see. Like 로. Well, 로, yes, 로 is used with nouns, but there are verbs that do it as well. Can anyone think of what I'm talking about? I'll give you an example. Don't worry. Space. Yeah, okay, I can write one more. There are hundreds of these. Verbs that are combined, verbs that use two verbs combined together, and one of them is showing the method or the way that you're doing something. In this case, to go. I'm going somewhere. How am I going there? 걸어서, by walking. Most of the time in these uses, you won't even see these 서 used. It'll just be 걸어가다. but it's the same as 걸어서 가다, as in going there by walking. So that's how you say to walk somewhere. 돌아서 오다, to come here. How do I get here? Well, I return from somewhere and then come here. So that's how you say to return here, to come back. 찍어서 먹다, 먹다. So I'm eating something. How am I eating it? By 찍다, to dip it. So I'm dipping it and eating it. So in English we would just say I'm dipping it. The eating part is assumed, and a lot of times we usually just say, in English we usually don't even include this sort of meaning when we say something like I just walked there. We just say walked. I came back. I dipped it. But we assume the second part. That's kind of tricky for English learners, that we assume this part. In Korean, they assume the other part. So, yeah. 찍어서 먹다. So that's to dip and eat. So this sort of usage, when you're saying the method or way by which you do something, cannot be replaced with 가지고. You can't say 걸어가지고 가다. You could say it has a different meaning. It doesn't really mean that. It meant like I walked there and then I went there. Like I walked and then I went there. It kind of has a different meaning. 찍어가지고 먹었어요. Like I dipped it and then I ate it. It's not quite used in the same way. They don't replace it like that. So for this sort of usage, you wouldn't replace with 가지고. Also, there's another common usage for the whole form that 가지고 cannot replace. And this was all covered in the whole lesson that I gave as well, but you might know it from your own studies. 서 is also used whenever you're saying something because... No, 서 is also used whenever you're saying some sort of feeling because of something. Like, I feel sorry because, or I'm happy because, or I'm sad because. Those sort of emotions are using 서. Like, hey, I'm really sorry that I'm late. You wouldn't use 가지고 for that. You wouldn't say 늦어가지고. You would say 늦어서. Or... I'm really happy about something. A really, really common expression that uses this is the really common expression is this. 만나서 반가워요. Try saying 만나가지고 반가워. It just sounds so weird. You can't replace this sort of 서 form usage with 가지고. Again, because, so I'm finally hitting puberty at 37. Because, or, and then. That's it. You can replace it with 가지고. You're good. Any other usage of 서, nope. It's not going to make sense. It'll sound awkward. Actually, I take it back. It'll make sense. They'll understand what you're trying to say. If you say 만나가지고 반가워요, they'll understand what you're trying to say. But it just sounds really funny. It sounds wrong. So yeah. Okay. Let me check here. Niaman asked, you're asking about, can I make a video sharing my language learning story? Yes, I have. I've actually made one about how learning Korean changed my life. Check it out. It's in my Q&A series on my channel. It was from, I believe, 2018. And it's also the first appearance of my son in any of my videos. So yeah, check that out. I did another video as well about like my journey for becoming a Korean teacher specifically, which came out in 2021, but the other one's probably better for your question. So watch that one. Okay. So let's talk for just a second. I've explained that there are several differences now between using 가지고 and 서 form. This is the reason why you will not find lessons that actually explain the difference between these two, because 가지고 is so commonly used that a beginner just needs to know how it works. They just need to know, what is this form? If you try giving all of this information to a beginner, it's just overwhelming. They won't know how the 서 form is used in the first place. They won't know that that 서 form has, can be used with emotions, can be used to show the method or way something happens. They probably don't know those verbs yet, but then you tell them, hey, 가지고 is this and this, and don't do this, and use informal speech, but it sounds casual, and they're like, what? It's just quite a lot of information. You're not going to find explanations of this form at all, beyond the basic, which is just, it's the same as Seoul form. But in reality, it's not the same as the Seoul form. But it's okay if you just know it's okay to switch the 가지고 form with the Seoul form in your head, because that will always be correct. As I said, anytime you see 가지고, you can swap it with the Seoul form and it'll be 100% correct. In fact, it's more correct, since 가지고 is not really an official, like a formal grammar form. It's not a written form. You're not going to see it in any sort of official usage. But you can't go back the other way. You can't take your Seoul and switch it to 가지고. And by the time someone gets conversational in Korean, they're going to already kind of feel that that's how it's used anyway, that it's only used to mean because or and then. Because if you think about trying to say 만나가지고 반가워요, it just feels awkward because you've never once heard it like that before. So by the time you want to get this explanation of it, or I'd say by the time you're ready for an explanation of it, most people who are speaking Korean already know it. They just don't know the details. So that's why you're not going to find many lessons about this. But still, now you know exactly why and how it's used. But if you didn't get anything out of this lesson, we're going to do sentences, don't worry. If you didn't get anything out of this lesson, just let one thing you get out of this lesson be that it's the Seoul form, but informal. There, that's good enough. See, that's all you really need to know. The rest is just details for intermediate learners. Okay, so let's do some examples. Oh, hey, Cameron. Blamarin. Don't want to reveal your true name. Okay, so let's do some example sentences, and hopefully this will make a bit more sense. Let's see. 친구들을 불러서 or 불러 가지고. Again, anytime you see 가지고, you can replace it with 서. Should go down here. PT? There is a PT, that's different. Oh, sorry. I'll hold the board steady. 파티를 했어요. Okay. 친구들을 불러. Okay, oh sorry. 주말에, on the weekends, 주말에 친구들을 불러. So I call my friends. 부르다 means to call. 가지고, as in 불러서. So I call my friends, and then related to calling my friends, so something related to that, as in we're going to do something together. 생일 파티를 했어요. And we had a birthday party. So on the weekend, I called my friends, and we had a birthday party, implying we had a birthday party together with the friends that I called. That's one of the features of the Seoul form. So this is the same as using the Seoul form here, because it means and then. 주말에 친구들을 불러가지고 생일 파티를 했어요. So on the weekend, I called my friends and we had a birthday party. Okay. I'll leave this up for just a few seconds and then we're going to go on to our next sentence. I don't have a lot of sentences because this form is pretty self-explanatory, but I do have 6. David Wee asks, does this 가지고 have nothing to do with 가지다? Oh, you probably missed the first 5 minutes of this lesson. I mentioned that 가지고 is from the verb 가지다, but it doesn't mean that as far as in its usage. But it is from the same verb, which means to carry or to have or to hold something. Okay. Let's see. I want to give you a sentence. To make, but I'm trying to think if there one here that I can give. Maybe I can give you this one. Then Maybe I can give that one. Maybe I can give that one. Okay, I'm going to do the next one, then I'm going to try to give you parts of a sentence to make. So for this one more, I'll do. 집은 일요일에 브런치를 만들어 가지고 here 가지고 먹어요. 우리 집은, so my family, literally my house or our house, 일요일에 on Sunday brunch brunch를 만들다, to make brunch. So we make brunch 가지고, and then we do something with brunch since it's going to be related. Again, this is the same as the 설 form, showing that two actions happen one after the other and that they're related. So we make lunch and then 먹어요. So we make and eat lunch together. 우리 집은 일요일에 브런치를 만들어 가지고 먹어요. So on Sunday, my family makes lunch and then we eat it together. 우리 집은 일요일에 브런치를 만들어 가지고 먹어요. 우리 집은 일요일에 브런치를 만들어 가지고 먹어요. So on Sunday, my family makes lunch and we eat together. Again, and then. So you could replace this, or anytime you see 가지고, you can replace it with the 설 form. It's always going to be right 100%. There is no situation where 가지고 cannot be replaced by 설. But there are many situations where 설 cannot be replaced by 가지고. Okay. Any questions on this sentence? And I'm going to give you one. I'm going to give you one where I want you to make part of it. JMT says, I can see how it can translate to have somehow. Literally, yes, but in function, no. So we make brunch together, and then having that, making lunch together, we eat together. Yeah, it's literally is where it comes from, but you don't need to think about that way. It doesn't have any benefit to understanding it like that. So no, just think of it as 설. Just think of it as 설. Just think of it as a grammar form. Don't think of it anymore as the verb 가지다. Sometimes I like to explain things like that. Like I'll say, hey, think of how it means literally. Hee hee. But in this case, no, it's better just to think of it as a grammar form. JMC, okay, let me get that out of my head. Yeah, get that right out of your head. Okay, I want you to make this sentence. I took a photo and uploaded it on social media. I'm going to give you a couple terms. 올리다 means to put up, to put something up somewhere. But this is the word you use for uploading. 올리다. Some people use upload, but 올리다 is the more standard pure Korean word for that. Upload, 올리다. And then social media, they say SNS. So people might say, Instagram directly or Facebook or whatever they're putting it on, Twitter or whatever, but SNS is just the general term for any sort of social media, and they still use this word. So I took a photo and uploaded it on or to social media. Make this sentence. If you can't, don't worry about it, but try to think about why you can't. If there's something that you're lacking, that might help you for what to do next. Okay, let's see. Carl was our first member. Cameron said, Billy Go is doing big things with Cole because he's Billy Go and not Billy's Hall. I'm also not 빌리니까 and 빌리 때문에. That is true. That is the real secret to my success, is going with Cole. Thank you. Oh no, Aniki is our first member to attempt the sentence. Juju is our first non-member, but let me check Aniki's first. 사진을 찍어가지고 SNS. So it's not 에서, because you're not actually doing something at that location. It's simply the location of where you're uploading it to. It's just the destination, in which case A. But yes, you're correct. And I didn't trick you. I didn't trick any of you. Let me see, did I trick anyone? Nobody got tricked. I was thinking some people would get tricked and write like 찍었어 가지고 or something like that. This form just uses the regular conjugation. So it's always going to be, 하다 would always be 해, not 했어 가지고 or something. It's just 해 가지고. And the same thing here, 찍어 가지고. So yes, Aniki, you are correct. Just change the 에서 to 에. Carl as well. 사진이 찍어 가지고 SNS에 올렸어요. And then your sentence is perfect. Traga. Oh, Traga, your sentence is perfect. Aniki. Oh, Aniki too. Your sentence is perfect. Hopegate. As well, Hopegate, you want to remove the 서 from SNS. So it's just SNS에. And Stars Gem. Small typo, Stars Gem. So you're just missing the L, the L. You're missing the lir at the bottom of 올리다. But yes, other than that, your sentence is perfect. Okay, now let's see some of the other non-member sentences, starting with Juju. Nice. Yeah, I'm just going to go through this really quick. Juju says, I almost automatically used 서. Yeah, it's fine. It's a understandable mistake. A lot of people misuse a or 에서 for locations, and that's because a lot of it is nuance. It's not just like literally means at or in or anything. It's more the nuance of a is something that's simply going towards something, like onto or at. It's the destination. 에서 is when something happens at that location. So it's marking where something takes place. So if you are uploading it while you are on the SNS and then you're like, that's where I'm uploading it on, like I'm doing some uploads on here, but that's not really what they mean. They mean they're here and they're putting it onto SNS, in which case A. Juju said, I meant I almost wrote 찍어서. Okay, well, you wouldn't have been wrong. I mean, you would have been more correct because 가지고 is something that, this is another reason why you won't see 가지고 taught most of the places, because in general, I think a lot of textbooks, a lot of there are formal universities that are teaching this, and they don't like teaching slang because slang is something you're just going to learn anyway from learning Korean speech, and slang changes a lot. What is considered cool slang is not going to be cool 5 years from now. And a lot of the things that pop up on social media that Koreans might say, oh, this is how you say this, and this is a new trend. They die really quick. Sometimes they'll hang around for, a decade or so, but eventually a lot of the really popular slang terms just die. Like I remember even like 짱 is still used fairly often, but it seems a little bit dated now. But there's a lot of slang that just kind of comes in and out, and you might think it's useful, but then it's dead a month later. So this is kind of one of those things. They don't want to promote something that's kind of a spoken trend because you don't know how long it's going to stick around. But in 가지고's case, it's sticking around quite a long time. So it's just considered like not proper speech. So you're not going to see it taught in most like university books or textbooks for that reason as well. Okay. Awesome. Let me give you an example of a right answer, and then let's do the next one. 사진을 찍어가지고 SNS에 올렸어요. So 찍어가지고 or 찍어서. So I took a photo. Notice it's in the present tense because the past tense took comes from the end of the sentence. So you don't need to conjugate anything else here. So I take a photo and then I uploaded it to social media. I took a photo and uploaded it to social media. 사진을 찍어가지고 SNS에 올렸어요. And then uploaded the photo to social media. Next sentence. Okay, I'm going to give you the end of the sentence. To say angry or upset, you're going to use the verb nada. It also could be hon-i nada, but it's not commonly used that way. Hon-nada. So to be angry or upset, hon-nada. So what I want you to say is, I was angry because the kimchi was too spicy. So it made me angry. So someone asks why I'm angry. I was angry because the kimchi was too spicy. So I want you to make that sentence. Take a few seconds to think about it. And this is what you're going to use. I'm not going to give you any other verbs or any words. You should be able to figure it out. Okay. Nice. To scold, Hendrik, that's 혼내다. 혼냈어요. 혼내다. 혼나다 is to be angry or upset. And that's the difference between transitive and intransitive verbs. If you're curious what that means, if you're hearing that for the first time, what's a transitive verb? Intransitive verb. You don't need to know those terms, but I did a video about them in my Korean FAQ series. What's the difference? What's the difference? If Seinfeld taught Korean, what's the difference between an action verb and a descriptive verb? The action verb's not really acting. The descriptive verb's not really describing anything. I don't know. He probably wouldn't get very far in Hollywood. That's why we got the one we did and not that version. Okay, let's see. Nope, Aniki's first. 김치 너무 매워가지고 혼났어요. Yes, perfect. Traga, 김치가 너무 매워가지고 혼났어요. Perfect. Aniki as well. Perfect. Hopegate. Perfect. Stars Gem. Yes, perfect. Just add a space between 가지고, although if you're writing this to your friend, no one's going to care about spacing, but I care as a teacher. So yes, perfect. Carl as well. Perfect. 진짜 혼났어요. Okay, yes. I was really angry. Okay, now let's see some other non-member messages. Juju as well. Looks like you were first of our non-members. You should really just join, Juju. You're going to be one of the people who posts first, but I always have to skip it because I go to the first member. 김치가 너무 매워가지고 혼났어. Okay, perfect. Let's see. What else do we got? Ninha, Sarah, nice job, both of you. JMT, nice. Ayakata, nice. Yeah, you would use 엄청. That's good. Shima Margadi, I can't pronounce your name, but your sentence is very good. SQAM, I can't say that either, but yes, very good. Oh, sorry. I am legitimately a pabul. So there is. Change your notes. Apologies, I am a pabul. I was thinking of 혼나다, and these are both negative. Someone was talking about scold. So yes, you are right. I was thinking about 화나다, and that's actually what I had in my example sentence on the paper, but I wrote 혼나다. These are both negatives, but 화나 is angry. 화나다. Whoever wrote that sentence, thank you for catching my mistake. Literally to be scolded, but it's like to get in trouble. 혼났어요. I'll put the note to fix that on my paper. Although both sentences legitimately are perfect. You can say 혼났어요 or 화났어요. But yeah. So you could be angry that the kimchi is too spicy, or you could get scolded, like people are like, hey, come on, what are you doing? Because the kimchi is too spicy. Both are okay. If you have either one, I'll give you credit for this. But yeah, apologies for me being dumb and swapping them in my sentence and then not double checking when I wrote it on the board. I'll just go with 혼나다 though for today. Anyway, okay, so you could say either. I was so angry the kimchi was spicy, which is actually what I wanted to say. But you could also say you made the kimchi too spicy and everyone was angry at you. Therefore, you got scolded. Like you got told off. People got mad at you. See, I can make mistakes. I can put the wrong sentence in my example. Okay, one more second though. Yeah, and then Hopegate just asks as well. Is 혼나다 the same as 화가? No, these are different. Yeah, 혼나다 or 혼이 나다 is. Hon is going to be like scolding, like getting in trouble. Not like necessarily you're not getting hurt or anything, but it's just people are getting mad at you. 화나다 is to get angry. Personally, you feel really upset. 화났어. I was like really angry, upset. There's also 혼내다, which is to scold someone, like to get someone else in trouble. Like, hey, don't do that. That's like 혼내다. Like to chew someone out. 혼내다. And then 화내다 is to get angry at someone. So not that you feel angry, but you're 화냈어. I got mad at them. So that's why, yeah. Anyway, I'm dumb. You guys are not. You caught it. Let's see. 비리 문장을 주주. 이 문장이 틀려가지고 혼났어요. Yes. 문장이 틀려가지고 혼났어요. 방금. 진짜요. I just got scolded for my sentence being wrong. Mary Lasco says this class is advanced, technically intermediate, but sure, it could be advanced depending on your level. Do you have beginner's class? Yes, I do. Let me share a link. I have a full free beginner's course. There's a link in the chat. You can start there. It's 100 episodes. Again, 100% free. There isn't even anything you can buy if you want. It's free. Even if you say, oh, I like this course. I want to buy it, Billy. Well, too bad. It's free. Yeah, and go ahead and get started with that. It'll teach you all this stuff, but it doesn't go into 가지고 because that's more intermediate. It's just a beginner course. But yeah, 100 episodes. Start there. SQ8MXT says 불화. Yes, it is actually from the same 한자 as well. Okay. So despite saying the wrong one, in the end, it doesn't matter which one you write. They're both going to be correct sentences. But here, let me give you an answer. Okay. 김치가 매워가지고 혼났어요. So I got in trouble. 혼나다. I was scolded. I got in trouble because 매워가지고, because the kimchi was spicy. They didn't want spicy kimchi, but I made it spicy, so I got in trouble. They're like, hey, what'd you do? 김치가 매워가지고 혼났어요. 김치가 매워가지고 혼났어요. I didn't do it on purpose. I just wanted spicy kimchi. The first time I made kimchi, I made it like super gingery. And so at first, like my wife was like, hey, this is like, how much ginger did you put in here? I'm like, oh, just a couple teaspoons. And she's like, so I think I put like 3 times the amount of ginger I was supposed to, but it was really good. And it just had a really strong ginger smell for the first few days. But the thing with kimchi is, kimchi is pretty foolproof. If any of you think kimchi is difficult to make, look at the recipe. You'll see there are so many different types of recipes. Some that'll use like fresh pear or this or that and this ingredient and that ingredient. And you're like, oh, I don't know if I have that. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the fresh kimchi will matter. The very first few days, that really makes a difference. You have the fresh pear and the fresh whatever you put into it. It's going to be really different in the beginning. After a couple weeks, kimchi is just kimchi. Like you can take like off the shelf kimchi and you can take like gourmet, homemade, like someone's 300-year-old grandmother's recipe that the grandmother was 300 years old, not the recipe. The recipe's only from the last decade, but it's this really like, custom made recipe. And you put them next to each other and you wait 2 weeks, preferably in the refrigerator, and you try them. They're both going to be really good. You're not going to say, oh, this one's clearly the better recipe. You're going to be like, oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Like you might not know if someone tells you this one's, a $500 pot of kimchi and this one's like a $20 jar from the market, something like it just kind of becomes kimchi. So even though I messed up is what I'm trying to say, even though I messed up the first time and the second time when I actually did make it way too spicy by adding double the recommended amount of gochugaru, it still turned out to be really good. So even though my wife didn't want to eat it at first, after a few weeks, she's like, it's actually really good. Oh, and then once I made it too salty. That was my third time. I think I've made kimchi like 5 or 6 times now. But yeah, I remember once making it with too much ginger and then too spicy and then once too salty. And all of them at the end, it's still really good. It was just like 2 weeks had passed. It's like, oh, it's a little bit kind of salty kimchi, but it was still good. It's just kimchi. It's hard to mess up. Okay. 김치가 매워가지고 혼났어요. So I got in trouble because my kimchi was too spicy. Okay. Next sentence. I didn't have any pork. So I brought beef. Now, you might see 소고기, you might also see 쇠고기. It's the exact same thing. The difference, since we have time, the difference is 쇠 is actually from 소의. So it's just cow's 고기. It's written as 쇠고기. So you'll hear 소고기, more often though nowadays you'll just hear 소고기. But in case you see this, it's the same thing. So I didn't have any pork, so I brought 가져오다 is to bring something here. I brought beef. IU222 says, I remember, but I forgot the past future tense. Past future tense? That's a very interesting tense. Are you talking about like would have? That sort of past future tense? You say, I learned from TikTok. Okay, well, that might be your problem. I don't think it's possible to explain any sort of Korean grammar within like 30 seconds. It just doesn't work. There's like very little you could teach within 30 seconds. You could say like, you know, one word, one phrase, but not any sort of, not grammar. So that might be your mistake, is learning Korean only through TikTok. And I don't know, unless they upload long videos, then I don't know. I haven't seen them. Maybe they are good. Oh, Traga. Did I trick you? Remember the tense. The tense. Pay attention to the tense, my friend. Ansel. 돼지고기 없어가지고 소고기를 가져왔어요. Nice. Perfect. Ansel. Stars Gem. Perfect. Aniki. Perfect. Hopegate. Oh, wait. 돼지고기. Ga. So opta is a descriptive verb, and by law, it is decreed that descriptive verbs shall not, never once, may they be allowed to be used with an object marker. Thus saith the Korean learning gods. Therefore, thou shalt never use opta or any other descriptive verb with the object marker. Besides that, though, yes. The other object marker with 가져오다 is fine. That's correct. Let's see. Traga. 돼지고기가 없어가지고 쇠고기를 가져왔어요. Yes, perfect. Juju says, how do you say puberty in Korean? 사춘기. Although you can also search that on Naver. Lexica. 돼지고기 없어가지고 소고기 가져왔어요. Perfect. Okay, let me give you the sentence. Oh, that's too fast. I'm trying to go a little bit slower so you can read it. 돼지고기가 this looks horrible. 없어 가지고 소고기를 writing too fast. There we go. 돼지고기가 없어가지고 소고기를 가져왔어요. So, 돼지고기가 없다. There is no, or I don't have any 돼지고기, pork. Therefore, because. So this is another sentence where it means because. So because I don't have any pork, what did I do? Well, the effect of that is 소고기를 가져왔어요. So I brought beef. And the reason for that is because I don't have any pork. So 돼지고기가 없어가지고 소고기를 가져왔어요. So I brought beef because I don't have any pork, or I didn't have any pork. Okay, next sentence. The hamburger is too big. Have you ever had that problem where you order a hamburger, you're like, this hamburger is just too big. I can't eat it. This hamburger is too big, so it's difficult to eat. Now, the way you say something is difficult to do is you take the verb stem and you get the nominalized form. It's the noun form of the verb with ki. So it makes it into like, instead of hada, to do, you get hagi, mean doing or the act of doing. So in this case, the act of eating is difficult. You can use 힘들다, or since I'm teaching you this anyway, you can use, you can use 쉽다 to say something is easy to do. 쉽다 is to be easy. So 하기가 or 하기, you could have 가 since it's a descriptive verb. 하기가 힘들어요. It's difficult to do. Or 하기가 쉬워요. It's easy to do it. So in this case, the hamburger is too big. Because the hamburger is too big, it's difficult to eat. 아니키, 햄버거 너무 커가지고 먹기 어려워요. Yes, perfect. 트래가, 햄버거가 너무 커가지고 먹기 힘들어요. Perfect. Ansel or Ansel. I actually don't know which one is Ansel. I think we're going to go with Ansel. 햄버거가 너무 커가지고, not 켜가지고. 켜다 is another verb, but 커가지고. 먹는 게 힘들어요. It's difficult eating it. Okay. 힘들다. Then why am I rushing? 햄버거. Okay, now let's see some other ones. Juliet says a piece of a very philosophical advice, says hamburgers should be longer, not taller. Well, that's what hot dogs are for. So like you take a hamburger, you remove that juicy beef and you replace it with, I don't know, like what, like the meat between the chicken's toes. I don't know. And you mix it with like the pork nose and like the cow's ears, and you grind it up and you make a hot dog. I think that's how they make hot dogs. I don't know. They taste really good, but I think that's where they come from. And then you stretch it so it's easier to eat. In fact, I really like the super long hot dogs, like the Dodger dogs they have at Dodger Stadium in LA. I haven't been there, but I know they have the hot dogs. You can buy the hot dogs at the supermarket, and like one pack of the hot dogs is like $4 versus one hot dog at the Dodger Stadium, which is probably like $20. So I bought that a couple times before in the past. They're pretty good. Okay, let's see. Stars Gem. 햄버거가 너무 커가지고 먹기 힘들어요. Perfect. And Hopegate. 이 햄버거는 너무 커가지고 먹기 힘들어요. Perfect. And Lexica. 햄버거가 너무 커가지고 먹기가 힘들어요. Okay. Not Ninha says Burger King makes longer hamburgers. What? But then you have to eat at Burger King. I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of Burger King. I've eaten it a lot. I just can't get into it. It's like, this is not what a hamburger is supposed to taste like. They're Whoppers, the plain Whoppers are okay. Those are edible for me. But like their other burgers are like, they'll experiment with like flavors that I just don't want on my hamburger. I don't know. I just don't like Burger King that much. It just has like weird flavors and stuff. Sometimes like sweet flavors or something. I just want like a classic burger. So I'm not a big fan of Burger King. I'm sorry, but I've tried it a lot. And maybe now the Burger King's gonna come kill me since I'm talking bad about him. Although I doubt it, because they haven't used that Burger King in their ads for like over a decade. Probably okay. Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe Burger King can... Okay, so the franchise I don't like in the US for burgers is Burger King. In Korea, there's another franchise I don't really like as well called Lotteria. It's actually kind of a Korean-Japanese company. They have the same in Japan as well. Just not my thing. I know some people love it. They're big fans. Meh. I can't enjoy it. If I'm like starving, I'll eat Burger King. If I'm like really dying of hunger in Korea and someone else buys it for me, I'll eat Lotteria. Or Lotteria did have a okay Hanu burger, like the Korean beef burger, it was okay, but it was also like over $10 for a small burger that I could have eaten 2 of. That one was pretty good, but their general food is just meh. I wouldn't pay money for it. Mom's Touch chicken is excellent, and their fries are good too, but their burgers are not. Their burgers are really disappointing for me because I can't do anything but compare Mom's Touch burgers to Chick-fil-A in the US, and Chick-fil-A beats them way over. If you compare Chick-fil-A burger with a Mom's Touch, you're going to be like, see you later, Mom's Touch. But as a result, you have to also support what Chick-fil-A does. I don't really like Chick-fil-A as a company, but they make good burgers. But yeah, Mom's Touch is just, they take this amazing chicken and then they just slop like a nasty bun with like one random slice of like, you know, like the white part of the lettuce that like shouldn't be consumed by humans. They'll like cut it into a weird shape, like the weirdest shape they can possibly make with a knife. They have like an artist, I swear, that will cut them in these random shapes. Slap it on with like a tablespoon of mayonnaise, like plain mayonnaise, and like a pickle that's sliced so thin you can see through it. And then they put it in a burger. Like every time I order their burgers, I just take off the bun and the toppings and just eat the chicken, which is really good. The burgers are just like pitiful. Their chicken is excellent though. So I'm conflicted. I love their chicken. I hate their burgers. Chick-fil-A, not Chick-fil-A, the restaurant Chick-fil-A. They make chicken burgers. Okay. Yeah, I actually don't know how to pronounce Chick-fil-A. And at this point, I'm too embarrassed to ask. Okay, so let me give you the sentence. I know you're here to learn Korean, not talk about chicken burgers. And we're not done with the form. Oh, I need a space here. Well, actually, let me write this a little bit clearer. 햄버거가 햄버거가 너무 커가지고. So the hamburger is 너무 too much. What? 크다, big. 커가지고. So because the burger is too big, 먹기 힘들어요. It's easy. Sorry, it's difficult to eat. It's too big. It's so easy to eat. It's too big. If it were any small, it would be hard. But because it's too big, 먹기 힘들어요. It's hard to eat because it's too big. So this burger is too big, so it's hard to eat. 햄버거가 너무 커가지고 먹기 힘들어요. 햄버거가 너무 커가지고 먹기 힘들어요. Chick-fil-A. Is it Chick-fil-A? I think it's Chick-fil-A. I don't know. I don't really care. Okay. Someone asked, could it be 먹기에? No. This is noun form. You're describing the noun form of the verb to eat. So you're saying eating it is difficult. You're not saying it is difficult in eating it. You're saying eating it is difficult itself. So you could add the subject marker 먹기가 if you want, or 먹기는, or 먹기도, or whatever like that. But it's not used with a because you're not talking about something happening to it. You're just describing it with the descriptive verb directly. You're saying eating it, the verb eating, is difficult. Okay, a couple advance notes since you've made it this far. Yeah. This expression is often used as a filler in Korean. What is filler? Filler is something that may or may not have a literal meaning, but it's used often, sometimes overused, simply to fill space. What I mean is, you might be saying something, and I don't know how to finish my sentence. Something, 가지고. It's used often as a filler because How many syllables does this have? 1 versus 3. So because it's longer than sol, anytime you can use it, it's used for speech because it has because it takes longer to say. So it works like a filler. Like, I don't want to just say sol because then I have to finish my sentence, but I can say something 가지고, and then it kind of gives me a little bit more thinking time. So in this case, it still has the same meaning, but they're just using it even though they didn't have to, because they want an extra second to think about what to say. So that's one of the other reasons why you're going to hear this used a lot, is because it has that casual, friendly sort of feel, but it's also a bit longer. So it allows for more time to think. So it's used as a filler. One more thing. You might also hear this word pronounced slightly differently. So a really common way to hear this is 가지고 or 갖고. 그래가지고, 그래갖고. What is this? Has anyone heard this before? Now, this isn't exclusive to this form. It's actually one of the many features of Korean when spoken. This is a more feminine sounding grammar ending. I shouldn't say feminine sounding. That's not the right word. Softer. This is a softer sounding word that tends to get used in Korean by more females than males. That's what I want to say. So when you use it, you don't sound feminine. That's why I think feminine was the wrong word to use it. You don't sound like that, but it makes your speaking sound softer. So as a result, and I have a video about this also, like the difference between how men and women in Korea speak a little bit differently, is that women will tend to, in Korean, use more grammar forms that have softer connotation than men will. And you can learn more about this in a video I made in the Korean FAQ series about like some of the differences. But that's one of the differences. You'll hear this more often used by girls, but guys use it too, because it has a softer feeling. So 가지고 can kind of help to make that soft, friendly, casual feeling of 가지고 even a little bit stronger. And I mentioned how 가지고 has that sort of friendly, casual feeling. So this just adds to that. So it tends to get used commonly by both men and women. Something something 가지고, something something 갖고. Just know it's the exact same. But because of this, I've seen a lot of people get confused about about how to pronounce 가지고, because they hear people say it as 가지고, 가지고, and they think, oh, are they saying like 가지고 or something? Because it's hard to tell what they're saying. So this is the exact same thing, just pronounced as 구, which makes it a bit softer, a little bit more friendlier sounding even than it already is. And I'd say it's just as commonly said this way. Paris Du says most of male idols talk feminine. It's not that they're talking femininely, it's that they're speaking softly. They're speaking in a more, that sort of style. But many guys do that too. And there are certain things in Korean. I'll give you one more. So ending your sentences with 요 is the standard way. 해요, 좋아해요, 안 좋아해요, 했어요, 갔어요. 그런 거예요? 저는 빌리예요. It's often pronounced more softly as 요. 저는 빌리예요. 만나서 반가워요. Like that. You'll hear that. 안녕하세요 instead of 안녕하세요. It has a softer feel. And K-pop stars will often use the softer form. But that doesn't mean they're speaking femininely. It just means they're speaking with a softer sort of overall tone. I do this too. It's not something that if you do this, you sound like a girl or something like that. K-pop celebrities don't sound like girls. They sound like them. They just sound like they're being cutesy or extra soft or polite. But a lot of people who aren't K-pop celebrities also talk that way too. Some of these things I do as well. I don't tend to do the 구, 고 for 구 replacement, but a lot of people do. I do tend to do this one, and there are a lot of these. So if you want to learn more about them, watch my video where I go into detail about that. But yeah, there are a lot of these little like differences, like how you can make your Korean sound softer. If you do all of them, then that can make people associate your speech kind of more like you're speaking like really, really polite, really, really soft, like that K-pop kind of sound. But it's not like a bad thing. It's just a different way of speaking. Okay, and that is the lesson. Really quick, let me take, I'm going to take a thumbnail picture, and then if you have any questions, now is the time to ask. Let me just take a thumbnail picture. Let's see, something like, I don't know what I do every time. It's just, I just need some sort of thumbnail image. Okay, questions. I'll take questions for the next 20 minutes. And yes, the live stream will be uploaded. It'll be live as soon as it's over. And the abridged version is available for all members. So all of you green people out there watching, your names in green, you can watch this live stream tonight in a few hours after I have a little bit of time to edit it. Edit it. Ask any of your Korean friends to say the sentence, I edited it. They can only do it. Like there's some things that you just can't do unless you're a native speaker or near a native speaker. And there's some expressions like pronouncing the word, so edited it, saying squirrel. There are like certain words that are just really hard for Koreans to say if they're not natives. I found out that's one because it's an expression I often use. Yeah, I edited it the other day. Like you can't say edited it. Like those sounds just don't come out of a Korean's mouth unless they've lived in the US or some other country for a long time. Glass artist. Glass artist. I'm starting to think you're actually a glass artist. Like a real glass artist. Because you always come in and drop the big ones. Running late. Did you just get here? We'll catch the full videos later. My goodness. Hold on, Lee. Thank you so much, glass artist. Can I do 50 dabs for you? What would you like? Yes, 50 dabs. I'm going to do it before you can say no, unless you say no really quick. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm doing it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 24, 25, 27, 28, 30, 32, 45, 67, 40, 50, 50, 50 dabs, 50 dabs. Thank you. Thank you, glass artist, for your generous donation. Yeah. Someone asked where's the dab music? Oh, you're right. So let's put some dab music. Oh, we need the decorations too. There's the decorations. Enjoy the music. Okay. Thank you. Okay. What's going on? Hendrik says, would 가지고 used to be in carry the weight on your shoulder? Like to carry, yeah, if you're using it as literally 가지다 as the 고, 가지고. Like you can say 가지고 가다. Like 과자를 가지고 갔어요. Like I brought snacks, as in I took snacks, I carried them and I went there. So I brought them there. But that's not this form, but that is the literal meaning of 가지고. Whew. Ikara says, is this the same as using the te form? Nope, zero relation. Not the same at all. I have a separate lesson about the te form. The te form in an alternate universe where I don't actually know Korean, but I still have this channel. Well, you see the te form is a different grammar form No, the te form is used for bringing up a topic, for highlighting something, like you're giving background to it. It's like, hey, blah, 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 we're talking about this. That's what the te form is used for. I have a whole lesson about that. Aneki is nidaman. It's like, it is, however, hajiman. And it's a formal way of saying it is, but, and you'll hear it in formal situations only, like speeches, like presentations, like you want to sound really formal. I've never done a lesson about it. That's pretty much all it is. Maybe I should do a lesson about it someday. But yeah, it's not really that important, I think. There are a lot of those forms, like variations on certain expressions that you just kind of learn by seeing them. Okay. Well, I'm still kind of out of breath. Okay. I can take some more questions. Hopegate, 자기 없다. Yeah, not that common, but maybe I could do a lesson on it. Do you want me to? I could maybe do a live stream about it. I can put it on my notes. Okay, I'll put it in my notes. Yeah, it's just for saying something's very something. Like, you can just replace it pretty much with 아주 or 진짜, 정말, like that. I don't hear it that much. Maybe a handful of times that I've used it. No, that I've seen it. I've never used it, but that I've seen it. It's just, yeah, an emphatic way of expressing something, like adding emphasis to something. Okay, I'll do a live stream about it. I'll add it to the next voting options after these ones are done. And if anyone else has requests for topics, know that if you're a member, if your name is in green, I will take your requests. This lesson also was from a request, although it was a while ago, it was from last year. But it was a request I had from a member who was like, hey, Billy, do you have a lesson about this? And I'm like, I actually don't. I don't have a full lesson about this. So that's why this lesson is taught, as well as all the other requests on the live stream votes that I do every week. Okay, Moon Unji said, how would you say because of? 때문에 works. Yeah, 때문. Well, what it is it's 때문, and then depending how you're using it, it could be 때문에, and then finishing the sentence, or 때문이다 if you're ending the sentence. So it is because of. 때문에 가지 못해요. 갈 못해요 wouldn't be a form, but 가지 못해요 would be. So I can't go because of a family problem. Perfect. Just know that 때문 is also not used for when you're saying thanks to. So if you say a person 때문, it's blaming that person. Like, it's because of them. It's not saying because of them I could be here. You need to say thanks to, so you'd use a different form, not 때문. Just know that. But for when you're not trying to blame, it's fine. Ikara says, for 법 and 방법, I actually have a whole lesson. Ikara, I have a live stream all about how to say how to. And I teach that very question, 방법 or 법. Really short answers, 법 is more of a fancy sounding expression. But for the longer answer, watch the live stream or the abridged version. Let's see. Oh, Myra, someone was asking about 얼짱. Yeah, 얼짱. 얼짱, I never see that word anymore. That's a slang word that used to be popular like 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Even, yeah, I'd say 20 years ago is probably more accurate. And it was from, yeah, 얼굴 짱, like awesome face, like really handsome face kind of. You don't see it anymore. There was a popular sticker photo company. Like these days, it's the sticker photos. In the past, it was more like you'd see people who'd take their pictures and it would make your eyes really big and your face super white and, you know, really adjust your face to look fake. Those were the older style of sticker photos in Korea. And a famous brand was 얼짱 that they had. I think you could still find it around, but, or maybe they're all gone. But anyway, mostly they're gone. I haven't seen one in a long time. Hope says, can I use the 가지고 form with my Korean teacher? Or would that sound weird because of the friendly feeling? Yes. If you are close with your Korean teacher, like you're friendly and you would normally just speak openly, I don't mean casually, but like, you can speak about whatever. It's fine. You're not going to be rude, but it does have that friendly, casual feeling. So you wouldn't use it if this is like a serious teacher and they're just teaching you and you're just asking questions like your regular, a classroom teacher or something like that. But if you kind of, you meet them after class, you hang out with them, maybe not hang out with them, you meet them sometimes, you've talked with them a lot, then yeah, it's okay. Ninha says, the joy of being a tax-paying adult is being able to pay for Billy's Patreon and Talk to Me in Korean course with my own money. Next up is the subscription to Billy's YouTube. You got that right. Yeah, being an adult, that's a nice thing, is no one can tell you no, except your credit card company when your card is maxed out. Other than that, no one can tell you how to spend your money. It's the nice thing about being an adult. You're like, I really want this, so I'm going to buy it. I don't have any money, but I would buy it if I had the money. And that's a really nice feeling, I think. Juju says, do you have a lesson about tapda? Ah, I see what you're talking about. Tapda like. Do I? I believe it's in my book. I've done a lesson on it before. I think it's in my book series, but don't quote me about that. But I feel like I've written a lesson about it. But is it in a video? I don't think so. You might have to Google, but I don't think so. But it's something is like characteristic of something, like so like, oh, that's such a thing. That's such a you thing. That's so like that. Then that's tapda. But I don't have a lesson about that. Maybe if a member requests it, I could do it. But yeah, no lesson so far in video form. Pretty sure. Juju says, in an IU song, she sings, 물음표 없이. So, 물음표, that's from 물어보다 or 묻다, meaning to ask. 물음표 literally means a question mark. So, 없이 is an adverb of 없다, to not have. So, without a question mark. So, no question. It's like, I'm not asking this as a question, is what it means. But I don't know the song, so I can't give you any more context. But that's what it means. I wish I could do K-pop, it doesn't have to be K-pop, but just Korean music, lyrics analysis live stream. That would be cool if there wasn't an issue with copyright. Aniki, okay, that's interesting. Aniki says, I've heard kapsi pronounced like kabi. Kabi. Yeah, sometimes there are a lot of words like that, and I'm reluctant to teach them because they're wrong, but there are a lot of cases where that happens. Would pronounce it like kapsi sound? No, it's kapsi. There are a lot of things in Korean, though, that get mispronounced commonly. I shouldn't say that they're saying it wrong so much as they're trying to simplify it more than it is. Because when you say kap, you're saying it as kap. You're not going to say it as kaps. That doesn't make any sense. Kap. So someone that hears the word kap and doesn't know how to spell it, they're going to say it as kabi with the subject mark because they wouldn't know that. It could be from lower education. It could be like an older Korean speaker and someone heard someone else say that and they repeat it. There are so many of these words, though, that are pronounced wrong. And it's really common when you have double syllables that you'll have multiple ways of saying it. These are just two right off the top of my head that I hear mispronounced all the time. This one is pronounced as ik, there's no L said. Ikta. But you'll hear a lot of people pronounce it when, for example, actually it is just as this. You'll hear people pronounce it as ikta. It's not. It's wrong, but you'll hear people say it. And the same thing with 밟다. Sounds fine. If I hear someone else say 밟다, oh yeah, sounds fine, 밟다. But it's not. It's 팝다. There's so many of these. It's like people will say it wrong, so you have to learn the correct way and the wrong way so that you can understand it. I just apologize. I did do a video about one of those. I did a video about that once, though, where I talked about how many words that have syllables, not syllables, consonants at the bottom get simplified into a shield sound. 꽃 is the word for flower. So how would you read this? Well, according to the National Institute of the Korean Language, and according to any teacher, 꽃이, 꽃이, of course. But how do, I don't want to say a percentage, I'll be wrong, about half? Maybe more, maybe less. How do many people say this actually as 꽃이? And the reason is the same as I just explained. Because when you say this, it's pronounced as 꽃. But many sounds in Korean end with this letter and get simplified, and this letter at the end of a word is pronounced as this. Like, for example, natta is pronounced as not with this. So many Koreans assume this letter must have been made into this, so it must end in this sound, because that's what a lot of Korean words end with, this sound. So 꽃이, you'll hear, if you attach this letter, 꽃에, not 꽃에, but 꽃에. It's just a thing. And I did actually a video all about this specific thing, if you want to learn more about that in detail. I can't remember the lesson title, but it was in the Korean FAQ series. Most of the detailed topics are in that series. So my answer to you is, don't do that, but know that if they say it that way, it's just a common mistake, and you don't need to correct them. 물음표 없이 참 너다운 목소리. So it's totally like that voice is so like you. It's so like you, no question. But keep in mind, these are lyrics. This isn't how people would speak. They're meant to sound a certain way, so they might say things wrong or in a unique way. Unique is probably a better word than wrong. They'll say things uniquely so that they sound interesting to hear in a song, but it's not going to be natural Korean. Ever. It's never natural Korean in a song. Without a doubt, that's your voice. Sure, you can translate it that way. It's a song. But does that mean they write the word wrong? No, they shouldn't. They should write the word correctly. But again, Korean is not only a written language, but it's also a spoken language, which is where you get things like 가지고 in the first place. It's poetry. That's why I don't learn from songs. Yeah, and anyone learning Korean should not be learning Korean from the songs themselves, because that would be bad. You'll be learning lots of awkward and unused and sometimes mispronounced Korean. It's really common, but it's because it's a song. And if you listen to the English used in songs in Korea, you'll also find lots of weird English. The famous Twice song, Cheer Up. Does anyone know how they pronounce that in their song? Do they say cheer up, baby, cheer up? No, they say chat up, like ketchup or something. Chat up, baby, chat up, babe. So yeah, don't learn any language. Don't learn any Korean from songs. Yes, shut up. It almost sounds like shut up. That's right. Shut up, baby. Yeah, I'm sure that's what they're actually singing. 좀 더 힘을 내. Yeah. Zandria says, I'm late. You are very late. But you still are in time to ask questions. This is what we have the last bit of our lesson for, is question time. Ninha says, in Italian, we call it poetic license. You can use wrong grammar for art purposes. Of course. And we do the same in English. Listen to an Eminem song. Do his sentences make sense? Grammatically? Kind of, but you understand it because it has like that rhythm, right? Like any song. Michael Jackson songs. Like, it has a nice rhythm. It sounds cool, but you wouldn't speak like that. I mean, yeah. I've said this example before. You walk around talking like Michael Jackson. Excuse me, sir. Shimon. Might I? Hee hee. Ow! Can you tell me? Can you tell me now? Where is the Trader Joe's? You don't talk like how people sing. And in Korean, it's just as bad. Trader Joe's is always in the shopping market with the fewest number of parking spaces. That's the rule, in case you're wondering. Sandria says, I could have sworn they were singing "Shut Up" this whole time. Yeah, it's not the worst offender either, but that's just a recent example. Juju says, I'm going to a Korean restaurant for the first time. What would you recommend? Gee, that's a tough question. Depends what they serve, but you probably could you probably should do something like soup, some sort of the jjigae. You can't really go wrong with jjigae. Get like tang. You can go wrong with tang. I've had some tang that's pretty like meh, but jjigae is usually pretty simple. Why don't just try like kimchi jjigae? Really simple, hard to mess up. Doenjang jjigae, hard to mess up. I've had like watery, low quality doenjang jjigae. It's still good. I've had like boring kimchi jjigae. Still good. AU222. Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at what you wrote. But I think it's so 한국인 식당. So it would be 한국 식당. 한국인 is a Korean person, so that would be like a Korean person restaurant. I mean, I don't think you should walk into that restaurant. I think you should run away from that restaurant. But yeah, it would be 한국 식당. Or 한국 음식. Or, yeah, like that. Kimchi. Yes, kimchi jjigae is pretty hard to mess up. Hope Gate says it's all hanja in the end. Yes, well, 60% of it is all hanja. Maybe more, maybe less, depending on the sentence. Yes, hansik is the word for Korean food, which is the same word but shortened from 한국 음식. So you'll also hear it referred to as 한식, as well as 미국 음식 becomes 미식. 일본 음식 is 일식. 중국 음식 is 중식, like that. But they don't do that for every single country. Like, because it's only for the commonly used countries. Typically gets to be China, America, and Japan will typically have their own words for stuff like that. And other countries are just the country's name and then 음식. You're not going to say like, for example, France, one of the words for France is, well, actually that'd be an old word. I'll do Germany, for example, 독일. You'd say 독일 음식. You wouldn't say 독식. It's like, sounds like a different word. 영식, sorry, 영식 is also okay. But that's, 영식 is a different meaning, typically. Juju says, I was thinking of tteokbokki, but I can't really handle spicy food. Yeah, sometimes tteokbokki can be really spicy and sometimes it's not. Depends on the place, but it's always a little bit spicy. You can get, though... Oops. This was a trend. So in Korea, there are often trends that come and go. And you can tell it's a trend when suddenly lots of places pop up and start making it. But a couple years ago, it was a trend to have roje of everything. So roje is rose, and rose is something that's made with including cream. So it's like less spicy or less strong. So you can get roje pasta. So rose pasta, roje tteokbokki was a big trend a couple years ago. And there are still many places that have roje tteokbokki today because it was a trend, but it still stuck around a bit. People liked it. So if you get roje tteokbokki, it's going to be less spicy because obviously it's going to be more of a pinkish, yellowish flavor and less of a red flavor. And yeah, it'll be less spicy to have roje tteokbokki. And I really like it. It's good. You get to enjoy the tteok and without the spiciness, but you still get a little bit of spiciness. It's also a Blackpink member, yes. But despite common belief, it is not made using the Blackpink member. It is made using cream. Let's see. 한식당. Yeah, you can use that. 한식당. Korean restaurant. Okay, a couple more questions, then we'll take off for today. Hopegate says not made with wine either. Yes, no, it's not made with wine. I haven't seen a lot of recipes made with wine in Korea. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's not really a common thing. There will be some restaurants that make foreign food that would use wine in the recipe. But it's not a common thing that you'll find recipes in regular restaurants that have wine in them. What you will find is things that have rice wine. Rice wine's pretty common. As well as, what do you call it? Mirine? Is that what they call it? The like cooking wine. There's like a cooking wine. Basur. I can't remember the English name for that. But there are some types of like Korean rice wine that they'll use for some cooking, but it's not really like they won't use regular drinking wine as an ingredient in cooking in Korean food. Like you might find it at like a pasta restaurant that does Italian style pasta, not Korean style, which is common, but actual Italian style. They might make it with some wine, but regular Korean pasta restaurants won't. Yeah, Midin, that's what I was thinking. Midine is a website that has like some, I can't remember, like they have like searching words from videos or something like that. Yeah, Midin, I was getting those confused. Someone whose name I can't read because it's all in blocks asks, have you considered doing an intermediate full course like your beginner one? No. I originally intended the beginner course to be a one-time thing. Making that took my entire life from March until December of that year. No. Yeah, beginning of March until the end of December of that year. Every single day. So 6 days a week, except for when I was live streaming. 6 days a week, every single week was taken over by that series. And it was the only chance I had to do it because of how much time it took. In order to make it an intermediate course, it would even take longer because intermediate lessons take longer to prepare generally than beginner lessons. You have to explain, now you have to compare this form with this form and give examples of both. It just gets more complicated the more advanced you get. So I never intended to make an intermediate course beyond that. But when you finish the beginner course, I don't think you're really going to need it because the goal when making the beginner course was I want to make a course that legitimately gets someone into the full beginner level, not something that you watch it casually and then you're like, oh, okay. Well, now what do? I didn't want that. I want it to be like legitimately, you finish watching the course and you're like, okay, I'm ready. I can do this. And then you can do whatever you want. So once you finish the end of the beginner course, I feel like you might not need an intermediate lesson. I mean, you want a course is what I mean. You still need lesson. But for that, I am doing other courses. So I had the intermediate course on politeness levels, which you can watch. I also have, I can't announce it yet, but I will be doing another course as well. But it's not going to be the intermediate course sequel to that. It's going to be a different intermediate course. So yeah, there's more coming, but not another 100 episode intermediate course. Let's see. M says, the problem is there seems to be less resources for intermediate as opposed to beginner and advanced. Yeah, that's a financial, the reason is that, like, completely frank, it's a financial reason. No company or person, myself included, wants to devote their entire time to focusing on intermediate and advanced learners because that's not where the money can be made. Just being frank. I do it anyway, but even I don't do majority of my content for intermediate and advanced learners just because there aren't as many. That's just the answer. It's just there aren't as many people who are in any language, in any hobby. There aren't as many people who get past the beginner level. The majority of people are like 99% of Korean learners, people who don't even interact in this channel, who just kind of come and go. They'll learn Hangul and then they leave or something. That's the majority. And that's where most money is to be made is, let's have a beginner lesson that's only for beginners, that only teaches this one really simple thing. And then there are a lot of people who still go beyond those levels, as many of you are, There are thousands of them, but thousands related compared to millions is a big deal. And I love doing intermediate lessons and advanced lessons, but frankly, I can't earn as much from the higher level, even though I love doing them as much as I can from doing beginner and intermediate content. So even if I want to do full-time intermediate and advanced, I can't. I wouldn't be able to support myself. So I have to make the majority of what I do accessible to people within the beginner level, the beginning or the end. So somewhere in there to the intermediate. And then when I have time, I also add in things like, intermediate topics or advanced topics or sometimes high advanced topics, but it's less so. It can't be the majority just because I wouldn't be able to financially support myself by doing both. Now, someday, Bill Gates is going to retire and he's going to give all of his inheritance to me. I know it's going to happen. I'll be sitting on $100 billion. He'll be like, Billy, those kids in Africa with malaria can wait. Cancer can wait to be cured. All of this can wait. I think you deserve $100 billion so you can, let me check my notes, teach Korean on YouTube. So he's going to donate all of his money from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to me. That time, when I no longer am concerned about finances, I promise, I'm not joking, although I am joking about that. I totally would change my entire channel to be for intermediate and advanced learners. But until that day comes, I will keep doing intermediate lessons and advanced lessons, but they are always going to be less often than I do beginner lessons, just because of that. So that was a completely frank discussion. And that I'm sure that doesn't apply to only me. I'm not going to speak for others, other YouTubers, other Korean teachers out there. They might have other reasons for it, but that's what I think is the most logical reason. Is it's just financials. It's difficult. Even if other people want to, it's hard. You upload a video about a beginner topic, or I do a beginner live lesson and I'll get 100, 200 people that watch it. If I upload a lesson about intermediate or advanced, it might be 50 or 100, and that's wonderful. And that I can't complain about that because it only is natural that fewer people get to the advanced levels. It's impossible for more people to get to the advanced than our beginner. But it means I still have to focus mostly on beginner and intermediate topics and less on the full intermediate or advanced topics or high advanced topics. So you still see them from me from time to time. It's just less often. Maybe the ratio of content on my channel is 30% intermediate and advanced and 70% beginner. I'd say that's probably accurate. Traga says, let's start a donation for the intermediate course. Like I said, I wouldn't be able to do that for the same reason as that. It would have to be a really big course. It would be another 100 episodes at least. And there are so many things that I wanted to teach in the beginner course that I had to cut out just to make it fit, that I would need to then put back in the intermediate course to make sure everyone's up to speed. So yeah, it's just a really big responsibility. I would like to do it. It's fun. And, but I will get to do more courses. So don't worry too much. It's not like I'm abandoning people after the beginning level. There are still plenty of other, videos you can do from beyond that. And then I still have other ideas for courses and stuff I want to do for intermediates. And then if you want more content, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I do have Korean reading made simple. And I'm not going to announce anything, but I might someday make another one of these. It's like native level reading examples, but with my explanations for everything. And it assumes you have a basic knowledge of Korean already. So it doesn't teach like how to read the alphabet or really basic grammar forms or really basic words, but everything else is explained. So it'll give really short explanations of grammar forms. That way you can at least follow along. And if you want to learn it in depth, then you can search for a lesson somewhere. But it gives you enough just to understand the topic, the grammar form as it's being used in there. And then you get, this one has like 21 examples. But yeah, I think if you're not in the beginning level, you're going to want to spend a lot of time trying to get as much exposure to Korean as you can. And then focusing less and less on grammar and vocabulary and focusing more and more on exposure and practice. So yeah. Amazon. Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's also on my website. Traga says, I just bought them. Yes, you did. That is awesome. Oh, and if you have any other requests for live stream lessons as well, and you're a member, let me know. I'll also add those. I did add one, the jagi opta, like hagi jagi opta. That's also going to be added for the next one. Hope Gates says, what level is your book? That book that I just showed realistically is for high beginner or low intermediate at the lowest. You could use it as an advanced learner, but if you're an advanced learner, you probably wouldn't need it. You would just read the source anyway. But if you're really low beginner, it would be difficult to follow because you wouldn't yet know the basic grammar forms that aren't taught. Like the sol form, you need to know the sol form, and the nika for like because. You would need to know how to make conjugations and stuff like that already before starting the book. But beyond that, yeah, it's fine. It's native level resources that are accessible to Korean learners. And yeah. Juju says, how do I know which Korean level I am? That's a good question. I did a video where you can find out your Korean level. Let me see the topic. Hold on, let me find the title. Okay, it is called Korean FAQ, How to Find Your Korean Level. So if you search on Google, Gobilly Korean level, you'll find that video, How to Find Your Korean Level. And I talk about how you can like judge where you are in Korean. And I give like a scale for that using the CEFR scale and what that means for Korean. And you can watch that. A lot of people have told me that's good enough to get a basic idea of where you're at. O says, do you have any upcoming content or books meant for high intermediate anytime soon? Yeah, the Korean reading book would probably be fine for high intermediate. I wouldn't say it's for advanced because, like, again, if you're advanced, you already know all that stuff and you're reading native level materials already. So intermediate, yeah. Beyond that, I do have plans, but not a schedule yet to make a video course for some high intermediate and low advanced topics, but again, I can't say when that would be. Hope says, that's one video I often rewatch to get a confidence boost. Nice. Oh, I've gone way beyond the lesson plan. Okay, yeah, if you're still sticking around, thank you so much. Feel free to, we're just kind of hanging out. The lesson's over. That was our lesson today. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm just hanging out and chat for a bit. Then I have to, after I turn this off, I have to take everything down in the room. It takes about 30 minutes and then start editing the video and upload that. But I don't want to. I just want to keep talking. David says, is your Korean Made Simple book 2 beginner or intermediate level? The Korean Made Simple, there are 3 books in it, and the first 2 are definitely beginner level. Everything in there is what I would consider beginner. The third one is the transition period from beginner to intermediate. 갈 거예요. Okay. Yes, that's correct. You would just have a space before 거예요, but then yeah, you're right. I will go. O says, do you recommend speaking daily as an intermediate or a couple times during the week for practice? Realistically, the more the merrier. And the higher your level, the more so. So for me, who's already fluent in Korean, I already can speak without feeling stress. I could talk Korean all day and it's fine. So how does someone like me get better? Well, I need a lot more listening and speaking practice than someone like you would. As an intermediate, you probably don't need that much. You don't need to do it daily, but at least a couple times a week, I would say. You want to be practicing Korean in some way, preferably using it. So that can be speaking, chatting with a friend, anything where you're using it, not just listening to it. And then you also need a lot of listening practice on top of that as well. You need both. So just the more you can get, the better. But any amount is still better than nothing. Yes, 갈 거예요. Correct. Okay, any last questions before I'll turn it off for today? Any last questions? I've already finished my caffeine drink. Probably I'll get a headache later from that. My body simply cannot process caffeine very well. I'm like really overly sensitive to it. But it does kind of help me stay alert. Aniki says, I'd suggest Buru, but I don't know if that's that useful. You mean like Hamuru? I've done a lot. I did a live stream actually about that, like Uro and Uroso and like Urosol and Urosol. I have a live stream about that. And yeah, the one you're talking about, unless you're talking about a different one, that one's not very useful. Like through doing something. Parastu says, I wish I had a partner for practicing Korean. Go on the app HelloTalk or Tandem or search Korean pen pals and find a website. There are lots of them. And just find someone today. Just message them. Say, hey, I've been learning Korean for this many months or years. I'm looking for a practice partner. I can help you with your English too. What do you say? And just go find someone. Message that to like 10 people. I bet you'll get like 4 replies and maybe one of them you can talk with for a short time. And you keep doing that, you'll eventually have a small handful of friends, people that you can both meet when you're in Korea as well as talk to on a regular basis, practice your Korean. But you really have to be proactive in finding a Korean friend because otherwise you're going to end up with just friends that use English to you. Aniki says, almost 2 years. Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of you I recognize now, you do the example sentences in these lessons and you get them right. Like, that's good. You can make sentences right away. Like, that's good. That's a really good thing. The rest of it, getting faster at it, you know, adding new expressions, speaking, that comes later with practice. But the basic, the structure you need is at least just being able to make the sentences at all. And then once you can make those sentences without any problems, then you start to be able to add in extra nuances to it. You're like, well, of course I can say this, but I want to say it like this. Okay, I'll try it. But you need to start with the basics. So if you can make these sentences, like, that's great. Like, you're doing good. I feel like I'm still high beginner. Yeah, like high beginner to low intermediate, that's when you start to transition. In my opinion, I consider someone an intermediate when they can have Korean conversations. Like I'm not going to be specific about how fluent they are or how natural or nuanced they can be. No. Can they have full Korean conversations where they're not the ones controlling what's going on, right? They're just a participant and the other person's talking and asking questions. They're asking questions. That sort of conversation. No other details about it, just can they do it? You're intermediate. That's what I say. Because that's a big level. You need a lot of Korean to get there in the first place. And yeah, and it's a hard bridge to cross because you need a lot of basic grammar to do that, and you need a lot of listening practice and a lot of speaking practice. And then specifically what someone needs also will depend on person to person. So some people might need more listening practice, like they're not doing it at all. They're only doing speaking. That's not great either. You kind of need to have both. Or the opposite is most of the time it's the opposite, where the person is getting loads and loads of listening practice, but very little speaking practice. That's the majority of cases that I see, and it doesn't work. In fact, that's maybe the worst situation. Is tons and tons of listening practice, but no speaking practice. Those people can't improve. But they could if they add in more speaking practice. Yeah, that's great. You need lots of listening practice, but you also need speaking practice. Otherwise, it just goes in one ear, spins around a little bit, and then comes right out the other. O says, I learn best through context, so that's why I put more focus on speaking, so I get my vocabulary in as well. I think most people learn best through context as well. You're going to learn something better when you actually get to use it. And then when you hear someone use it back to you, you get the feeling of, oh, I see when this was used. And then when you learn a new word means this, and you're like, well, how is this different than this? You won't really need to worry about that because you'll already have context for your first word. So you'll know, well, this word is what I hear and what I use. This word I've never heard. So maybe this word is less common. Like that's how you can kind of make those connections, is by learning in context. And how Koreans learn naturally is listening and speaking. Listening to lots of Korean, speaking back to other people, getting corrected as children. You know, people say, don't say this, say this. Okay, say it again, listen more, say again. That's how you get good at speaking. And people who, really, really quiet people don't learn speaking as well as the ones that are speaking it a lot. Jay says, 수업을 해주셔서 감사해요. 도움이 많이 됐네요. 다음 라이브 또 봐요. Okay, nice. All right, I think that's good for today. I don't want to go on too long. I've already been going now for 2 hours. Thank you everyone for coming. That was our lesson. If you made it this far, good job. And I will see you again next time. Note there is no live stream next Sunday because that's our week off, but then there will be 2 more the week after that. Hold on, wait. Aniki says, I don't even know what level I am because I can chat, but when I speak, the words can't come out. Try this when you're chatting. So you can chat. When you're chatting, try to, after you write your sentence or while you're writing your sentence, say it out loud in your head. Maybe you already do this. I don't know. Maybe you don't. That counts as speaking. That's pretty close to speaking. You're still generating the sounds. You're still even though you're not speaking it, you're still making it in your head. Try that when you're writing your sentences. Read out what you wrote. When someone writes a message to you, do the same thing. Read it out loud and pretend that you made that sentence when you read it out loud. Of course, my tablet just died. These days, it doesn't make it through a whole stream. Pretend that you said the sentence that the other person made to you. So they say, blah, 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 blah. Read it back out loud to yourself in your head and then make your sentence. That's speaking practice. That should help as well. A little trick. Okay, since my tablet died, I guess this means we should end it. Let me just read this last thing. Does it still count as intermediate to be able to have conversations just needing a couple word? Yeah, no, that's fine. Like I said, you can have a conversation anyway. You're intermediate, in my opinion. If you're looking up words, that doesn't matter. I look up words if I'm like talking about something I don't know about, like someone's talking about some really specific thing, like I'm their field of study and I don't know anything about it. I might want to look up a word if they use it. That doesn't mean anything. If you can still have the conversation, you're not messing up the conversation. You can say, oh, hold on, I have to search that word. 잠깐만 저 그 단어 몰라가지고 잠깐 찾아볼게요. 몰라가지고 좀 찾아볼게요. Yeah, I'm just gonna find. I don't know. I'm gonna find it. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that doesn't interrupt the conversation. That's fine. You could still be intermediate. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming, and I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐. 다음에 또 봐.